Hey there, welcome to the Well Balanced Mind. I'm Shannon Rollins, your host, and I'm really excited about today's topic. This show is based around giving you more insights to understanding your mind and your behaviors and why you do what you do, and also giving you some tools and techniques to live a more fulfilled, happy life from the inside out, because we all want that, right? And so the topic for today we're going to be talking about is our emotions, and it's really interesting. I actually had a friend ask me the other day, Shannon, are your emotions controllable? Can you actually control your emotions? And it was an interesting question, and I want to leave this with you to think about throughout our entire episode today. Can you control your emotions? And as you're thinking through that, think about all of the areas and times in your life where you might have been a little upset and you didn't want to let it out. You didn't want to open up with your emotions. And so as we go through, I'm really thinking about this question that my friend asked me, and I'm not going to give you the answer until the end of the episode, so hang in there. But where do our emotions come from, right? And I really like to think of it this way. We have 4 primary emotions. And when something happens to us, and when I say primary emotions, primary negative emotions, when we go through an event in our life that happens, we might be hurt. We start with the emotion of hurt or sad. I'm so hurt that this happened. I'm so sad that this happened to me. And then we move into fear. The number 2 is fear. And that's, man, I'm really scared. I'm fearful because this happened. And that's when our mind starts kicking in. I need to protect this person. If it was me, I need to protect Shannon. So what do I do when I act afraid? Then, when we are pushing those 2 emotions down, what manifests after that? Anger. Anger is our 3rd primary emotion that's negative. Right? So then we start to get angry. And then the 4th emotion is guilt, that is swirled in between all of these emotions when something happens, when something bad happens that we don't like very much. And someone might be thinking, if you're watching this and you're thinking, that's not true, there's a zillion emotions. I feel irritated, I feel frustrated, I feel really, really anxious. Those all stem from those emotions, if you think about it. Frustrated stems from anger. Irritated stems from anger. Sadness stems from hurt, right? If you feel anxious, where does that stem from? Where does the anxious feeling, if you're feeling a lot of anxiety and anxiousness, that stems from fear? They all stem from those 3 emotions. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, what about guilt? Where does guilt stem from? Guilt, I want to pause for a moment. Let's talk about guilt for just a minute when we talk about emotions and how you can control them. Our society has done a beautiful job at teaching us not to show our emotions. I mean, have you ever gone to work and had an issue and your boss tells you, leave your emotions at the door? Your personal life is at the door and you should not bring those emotions into work. Or you get really angry about something and someone, your spouse or a loved one or a friend tells you, you need to stop lashing out. What is wrong with you? You're crazy, right? We get told we're crazy when we start lashing out and we actually have emotions, when we actually have a human experience. And so back to my friend's question, can you control your emotions? I remember about 6 months ago, I was driving up the road here in Orlando, and there was a 2-lane highway merging into one. And I was in an SUV, you can see me, right? And so I'm driving and I'm trying to merge, and this car is just speeding up and not letting me merge into it. So it runs me off the road, and what happens? If you could flash these emotions and out of slow motion into a super fast curriculum of being able to look at the way that it happened, here's what happened. I became really hurt. How could they do that to me? Then I became scared because I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to get ran off the road. What's going to happen? Am I going to die? And then I got angry. I lashed out. My protection mechanism was getting angry. Now, what I turned into was really an inflatable tube man. If you've driven by any Mazda dealership or Toyota dealership, or really anyone who's having a sale who wants to have an inflatable tube man outside being able to promote their services or their products, I turned into that. Now, the peaceful me who meditates and really takes time to be calm and peaceful and feel good and love, that went completely out the window. I'm telling you, I am really not ashamed to share this because of this episode. I'm flailing my arms around, right? And I'm yelling at the person, how dare they do this to me? I can't believe they would do this to me. And this is coming from someone who's a coach and hypnotherapist, someone who understands human behavior. But my reptilian brain kicked in, and that means that I needed to protect myself. It was do or die in that moment, and my conscious mind was out the window. The subconscious kicked in. And there's 2 types of our minds. You're gonna hear me talk about this a lot in pretty much many episodes. Our subconscious and our conscious mind. And if you want to learn more about it, it was mentioned in our first episode as well. But our subconscious mind is where we store these emotions. It's the seat of our emotions. And so with guilt, our society has taught us to push all of these emotions down. Push them down, act happy, be positive, think positively. And then we feel guilty when we feel them, even though it's a human experience. Why else would we have these emotions? We didn't make them up. They were instilled in our human behavior to help us think, thrive, and grow. To help us think, thrive, and grow. It was instilled in our human behavior. And so the way that this works, right, the way that these emotions are stored in our subconscious mind, we first have an event, get cut off the road, right? That's a minor event, but other events that could be even worse, right? An event happens to us. Something happens to us. Then from that stems a belief. My belief was, wow, I'm not good enough to even for this person even care about me. I'm not good enough. That was the belief. Now, if you're thinking about events and instances in your life, start to think about what beliefs stemmed from this event that I'm thinking about. Think to yourself, what emotions are stemming from this? Because our beliefs, what we think about it, triggers our emotions. Those negative primary emotions that start coming up, and they really stack off of each other. So if we think about an emotion of anger, and feeling so angry, it's because we're shoving the other emotions down. And then we feel guilty. If you're shoving it down, you likely feel guilty, right? So with these, it's shoving it down. I like to use the analogy of a beach ball. You're in a pool, or better yet, you're in the ocean. You're in the ocean, and you have this beach ball, and you're playing with your friends or your child or whoever, and just think of all your negative memories and emotions in this beach ball, and you're shoving it down, and you're trying to hold it under the water, and you're trying to hold it under the water. What happens? It pops out on the other side. It ends out all the way over there, and you don't even know what happened. Now, if you've ever blown up, Or if you've ever had an instant where you got in a fight with someone and you're trying to hold it in passively, like peace and love, peace and love. You're thinking of that to yourself so you don't beat someone up. It's going to manifest in other areas of your life. And I'll share with you personally, for me, it manifested in psoriasis. And it manifested in other types of illness, physical illness. Because when we're doing this, it creates stress, and stress creates illness. And it lowers your immune system and makes you not sleep well at night. And so if you have these types of emotions, I'm here to tell you it's okay. It's okay that you are a human being having a human experience. And so as you're thinking about this, and you might be asking yourself, Shannon, how do I know if I'm pushing my emotions down? How do I know if I'm controlling them? Think of it like this. Emotional baggage. A lesson on emotional baggage. This is what I like to share with people. When you are driving down the road, or you're having a conversation with a loved one, or you're at work and you blow up, and you have an unreasonable reaction to what happened. When someone is thinking to themselves, that wasn't that big of a deal, why did they blow up? That's emotional baggage. That means that you have something deep down that hasn't been cleared. Usually when we have a disproportionate reaction to something, it's never about that thing, right? It's never about the boss. It's never about the stranger who cuts you off on the side of the road. It's about something that could have happened 10 years ago. It's about something that could have happened 20 years ago. It could have happened yesterday, or it could be something ruminating. The thoughts and the feelings that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, and all of those different things that you're thinking about. So our beliefs, what do we do to transform these? To transform and clear is to really understand who we are as humans. And not everyone likes me making this statement, but I'm going to make it anyways. We are animals. We are human beings, but we are animals. So it's natural and normal for us to have reactions to things. But the best thing that you can do when you start feeling these emotions coming up is ask yourself this one question. Where is this really coming from? Is this really coming from that person, you're angry at that person who cut you off? Or is it from a fear of something else happening? And so each time as you're going through, even if you have a boss, right? A boss that you just don't like, or a job that you don't like too much right now, or you're fighting with loved ones in the home, sit for a moment and ask yourself, is this really where this is coming from? Where is it coming from if not? And being able to dig deep and understand. And not only that, communicating. So the other thing that happens, and why we push it down, because we're taught not to express our feelings, men and women not to express our feelings, is to communicate. If something is bothering you, bring it up right away. Because if it starts ruminating down here, what happens? You have a blow up. Or there's so many things stacked that you just can't take it anymore and you're done. And you walk out. So being able to communicate, okay, this is what's bothering me. Now here's the tricky part, where this is where a lot of people get fudged up on, because I do too, is when someone doesn't take the conversation lightly, they don't take it correctly, and you are feeling bad, okay, now you're taking on their baggage. So not only do you have your own, we all have our own baggage, but then you're taking their baggage on for yourself because you feel bad, even though it's a conversation that frankly has to be had. So being able to understand and know when you're thinking about it, okay, now am I taking on their baggage if I feel bad? You can still feel bad about something, but knowing that you're following your true path and that you're expressing your true voice and your true feelings will alone help you with your emotions and help you clear some of these emotions up. So back to my question, can you manage your emotions? Can you control your emotions? My opinion is no. And some people might disagree with me on this, but if you think about it and we're having this human experience, you got to let it out. Whatever that means for you in a healthy, productive way and smaller increments. And so if you are going through the day and you start to feel something fester up, you're getting really, really irritated and you want to vent, one tip I have for you is breathing. Breathing, breathing, breathing. Being able to take deep breaths in, diaphragmatic breaths, helps you calm your nervous system because when you start getting flustered, your fight or flight response kicks in. And when your fight or flight response, your stress response kicks in, you start getting those sweaty palms, your heart starts beating, and then your judgment becomes cloudy. So knowing the trigger of when that happens, when you start having that ruminate, those emotions ruminate within you, take a big breath in and exhale. Now, we talked a lot about anger today, but I also want to touch on sadness. If you're feeling sad and you want to cry, please do. Please cry. It's really interesting how we offer so many people tissues and tears to wipe up our sadness like it shouldn't be happening. But really, crying is actually a cleansing ritual in itself. I mean, let me ask you this. You don't have to admit to anyone, but I will say that I've experienced this. Have you ever cried and felt 10 times better afterwards? Women, I know you know that I'm talking about this. You understand where I'm coming from. You have a good cry session and you feel good afterwards. There's a reason for that. Listen to your body. Sometimes you just got to let it out. And being able to take breaths as you go throughout your day and understanding that you're a human and giving yourself grace. That you're a human being doing the best you can with the resources you have at the time. So if you have emotions, it's fine. Sometimes sit with it because whatever you resist persists. Whatever you resist persists. So if you're resisting an emotion coming in, then you're really not dealing with it. You're just repressing it, pushing it on the back burner. This isn't important right now because I need to do life. But sometimes taking that moment to just sit and be. And when you sit and you're a being and not a doing, when you're a being, you're able to beautifully find out who you are. And sometimes sitting with it is not a pleasant experience. But I challenge you, this is your challenge for today and this is your takeaway. As you're going throughout your day, start to understand what your triggers are. Start to pay attention and have an awareness around what is really irritating me today. What is really making me sad tomorrow? Because if you can pick up on where these triggers are coming from, you can probably understand where you're projecting as well. Because usually the way that we look at the world is really the way that we look at ourselves. It's our projection, our internal world projecting into our outer world. And so the closer you get to that understanding, the better off it will be. And it's a journey. It's a journey figuring this out. But being able to just stop, take a breath, calm your nervous system down, maybe do 3 or 4, do as many as you need, up to 10 breaths. You could do it while you're in a meeting, you can do it while you're in school. And then giving yourself that time to calm down and then ask yourself, is this really what this is about? And as you go through, especially with my work in hypnotherapy, it's being able to really teach this and help you clear these emotions, help you clear these blocks and where these are coming from. Because until these blocks are clear, do we really know what authentic means? Or are we being authentic based on what society and our authority figures have taught us when we were younger. The real meaning of authenticity is who you truly are when you're an infant, right? When you're an infant, yeah, your personality isn't fully developed yet, but before your parents shape you and mold you into a human and teach you the lessons of life, your authenticity is before then, before you started getting in trouble, before you started getting your hand slapped, before you started getting made fun of, up in class. That's what really shaped us throughout. So what were you before that? And ask yourself, and you will know all the answers of what you need to know as long as you take the time to sit with it and just trust yourself. So my takeaway for you today, again, is to trust yourself, give yourself grace, and ask yourself these really profound questions, and you're going to get closer and closer to your truth, closer and closer to healing, and closer to understanding, not controlling your emotions, understanding your emotions. Because out of that always comes the happy emotions, like joy and happiness and bliss and laughter, and all those things that also are in our human experience. And being able to really appreciate our range of emotions that we have. Because with the good comes the bad, with the bad comes the good. And that's always been the way it is, the yin and yang of life. So if this really resonated with you and you're just thinking to yourself, man, I just want to learn a little bit more about this, you can head on over to my website at shannonrollins.com. And again, this was an episode of The Well-Balanced Mind, and I look forward to seeing you back here again next week. Thank you so much for joining me today.